Are noise music creators some of the most talented or least talented people in the entirety of the music world? I'm coming from a pretty unique perspective of someone that doesn't really like noise music whatsoever, but is endlessly fascinated by the different subgenres of it and have spent tens of hours deep diving into different artists, different albums, different movements, because I truly think that to be the antithesis, to be anti-music, is very intriguing and very fascinating, and even if it's not something I particularly indulge in, I've always wanted to sort of dig my teeth into what makes these artists tick through interviews and through live performances, because I think that outside looking in, a lot of times when you see people critique noise music, they just say, it is just noise. There is no musicality to it. There is no rhythm to it. There's no reason for it to exist. I don't understand it. It shouldn't exist. And while I do understand that, I also want to play devil's advocate and say that I think that to understand noise music, whether you appreciate it, acknowledge it, disown it, do not like it at all, you kind of have to reroute your thinking of what you think of music. Music notoriously is seen as some sort of rhythmic pattern. It has harmonious nature to it. It has melodic nature to it. It has to have some sort of rhyme or reason to it, but as any sort of like philosophical debate of consciousness or any sort of thing like that can be, what exactly do you define as being music or being art with purpose? Because if you call into the question noise music, you are automatically calling into question all of like avant-garde music in general and avant-garde art in general, which has always been about challenging the norms of what is conceived as normal in art, challenging the status quo, and that's exactly what noise musicians are doing. If you don't like their music and if you think they are not music, you are giving them exactly what they want. You are pretty much playing exactly into what they desire. You're not doing anything to critique them, you're not doing anything to dismantle them, and if anything, you're just proving their point in many ways. I understand that a lot of metal genres are very underground, but with that being said, noise music is a whole other beast, especially if you go into some of the really idiosyncratic types of noise music, like harsh wall noise and some of the japanoise scene, both of which I've covered in like rough guide videos. If you're interested in that, just look up like a rough guide to harsh wall noise or japanoise. The scene and culture behind it is sort of like this full body experience, and the people that go to these live shows or live performances are looking for a completely different experience than the people that would go to a normal music concert, metal or otherwise. Dare I say, as an extreme metal enjoyer, I don't necessarily think that a lot of extreme metal is that far removed from some noise music. If we're going off of rhythmic patterns or melodicism or harmonious instrumentation, there are some very idiosyncratic extreme metal subgenres that are very atypical. They are very atonal. They don't necessarily have that strong of a pattern. They're just gong 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 gong. They don't have any sort of like rhythmic progression to them. They're very one note. They're very one-dimensional. And in the same way that noise music is trying to push you away and be cold, is that necessarily any different than a frigid, insanely shrill and brittle lo-fi black metal record that is just ear-scraping to listen to and is so unwelcoming to like 95% or more of the people that are going to hear it? A lot of music is an acquired taste, but by the same token, you kind of have to have a specific mindset if you're gonna enjoy noise music. To be able to challenge something, it can seem like there is no talent behind it, especially if you look at how a lot of noise music is constructed. It can feel like pots and pans clanging together. It can feel like a bunch of stuff put into a program and turned on bass boost and call it a day. But if you watch a lot of these live performances and how some of these compositions are created, there's a lot that goes into them. There's a lot of technique and sound design that goes into them, and it obviously depends on what artist you're talking about, because there are certainly some very niche, like underground artists that are just trying to be as off-putting and as abrasive as possible, and they truly are probably just putting everything into a blender and just making a cacophony of sound. I understand that certainly exists, but the more well-established noise artists, especially some of the ones that have collaborated with metal artists or other artists like, say, Merzbow, some of Boris's work, I would even say Sun, a metal project, a drone metal project, has a lot of noise influence in their music. You can see how noise has pierced into different genres. Look at a project like Full of Hell, look at a project like Primitive Man, look at a project some degree like Nails or other power violence bands. Noise music and the act of using distortion and having noise in your music is not a new invention, and just because it is taken to the extreme and it doesn't have any of the other influences to sort of fluff and pad it out and is stripped down to its bare essentials, doesn't mean that the people producing it don't have some sort of talent behind the stuff that they are producing. There's a hell of a lot of technique that can go into it from someone like Merzbow, who is very talented and very diverse and dynamic and versatile, and if you go into his music, he has done a ton of stuff and had a ton of influence on not only noise musicians and Japanese noise musicians, but metal musicians and other genres as well, electronic stuff, and electronic's a whole thing. There are tons of electronic genres that take from noise music. So I think that just calling into question noise music as just being noise, yeah, Sherlock, you're right, no shit, it's just noise, that's the point. But it doesn't mean that these people aren't talented, and it's case by case, because there's bad noise music out there, there's crappy noise music. I can honestly tell the difference between crappy noise music and well put together noise music, and I don't even particularly like the genre. It's just something I'm very interested in researching and listening to. So just like any other thing, there's gonna be bad, there's gonna be good, there's gonna be people who rise above it and make something interesting out of it, and there's gonna also be people who are left behind making something that is kind of an inferior product and just kind of dime a dozen and subpar. There is the argument to be made that you aren't putting melodicism and harmoniousness and instrumentation and rhythmic patterns in your music by making noise music, but that's kind of going back to what I said at the start of the video to wrap this video up, is you kind of have to reroute your thinking and how music and art is established and what you expect from it. It is going against the grain. That is the entire purpose of its existence. It is trying to go against the grain. It is trying to be anti-music. So if your definition of talent is just following the objective definitions of what music is or can be and staying in those confinements and kind of caging that in, which more power to you, then you probably do think that noise musicians are some of the least talented people. But I personally think that they are very talented depending on who you're talking about, and it definitely is a case-by-case basis, but I think that if you are going into it with more of an open mind of what art can really be, I think you can find a very fond appreciation for what noise musicians are able to encompass in their work. What are you guys' opinions of this topic? You can let me know down in the comment section below. Agree or disagree, there is no wrong answer. Do you like noise music? Do you not? Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts of this topic. I can't wait to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.